wish you would have known before you went into the field?
I think what's been most striking for me, and I've only been at UCE for going on 2 years now, so I'm still a newbie in terms of higher ed and academia in that way. I came up from the child welfare sector, which is an entirely different beast. But what I wish I would have known coming in was there are politics that get in the way of just everyday stuff all the time. And I wish I had come in with some sort of manual. All right, this is how we navigate this. And when someone says this, what they really mean is this. Because I'm like, wait a minute, you said this, but that is really implying a whole lot of other stuff. So it's difficult for me. I'm very kind of, what you see is what you get. You know, I'm pretty black, white, and blue about things. You've got to be pretty transparent. So just logistically, you can't really be like that on campus. And so I have to switch my language and my processing over. So that's difficult for me.
I would second that one for sure. I just wasn't expecting the politicking that goes on in a department or across departments, to the point where I taught at Metro for a year, and I was there 2 weeks, and I knew there's no way I could stay because of the tension between the math department and their school of ed. And it was just like, this just doesn't feel good. And it's much better here at CU Denver. But there's still, and then just like navigating the bureaucracy, and if I had any idea what it was going to take for promotional stuff, I mean, when I went from senior instructor to clinical track, it was like a 2.5-inch binder full of materials, and then another binder, and then it went off to one committee, and literally I started this process February of last year, and I didn't get notified that I got the job till January of this year. It's like, wow, everything takes a lot longer in academia than I expected. And there's a lot of that politicking, and that's probably the downside, I think the frustrating side. And you do have to learn how to navigate it, and like you were saying, you know, how you adjust your language in meetings and stuff like that so that you're heard. I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed is people don't stop and listen. They're thinking about what they want to say next instead of actually listening. And when I've tried taking on leaving people feeling heard and understood, it's made a big difference in those meetings. And I wish I had been kind of taught that earlier. Sometimes your foot gets stuck in your mouth. So.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I wrote down about this question is compromise, which can be sometimes hard to do. I kind of came into academia thinking that people would have the same values that I do, you know, about what we need to prioritize for our students, and, you know, that social justice is important, right, and diversity in the department is important, you know, and kind of recognizing that that's not always people's priorities, and navigating those politics, I think, has been both depressing and surprising for me. But I also feel that as I've become more senior in my position, I do have to censor myself less, right? And that might be developing a confidence that what I have to say has value. You know, I don't know if it has to do with where I am in a hierarchy, or more that I'm more confident in what I have to say. But just to give you an example of this sense of still the politics are there, our college, we have a monthly meeting of chairs and directors of programs. And the room probably has about 25 people in it every month. And I was looking around this room and I saw that 4 people in that room were tenure-track women, right? And there were no people of color, right? And so it's still, you know, what then you do, and do you do? It's, I mean, some of these issues is that change, I think, happens extremely slowly in academia, and that leads some people to be defeatist, and I think that's also something I wish I had known about earlier on, that, you know, because you kind of come out of graduate school and like, you're ready to take on the world. And the response you get is like, oh, that's the way we've always done things around here, right? And it's hard to get change, but it's really worth pushing for change.
Well, and I think that the confidence, like you said, finding your voice, that was, I mean, I remember taking this qualitative analysis class and we had to write our theoretical perspective and feminism got removed, like it was not added in there in mine. And she's like, well, you are a woman, so you should have, and I'm like, I'm not feminist, that's a dirty word, right? It's like, and then I was like, well, well, maybe she's right. And then, but it was like, that was my time to kind of embrace it. And then when I got into these meetings, faculty meetings, stuff like that, it was the same thing I noticed. It's like, okay, there's 3 of us women in here, and the rest are men. And I've been in certain departments,
And it's probably more in math
Yeah.
than it is in
when I was
humanities.
at Metro, it was math and computer science, and there were 3 women with PhDs out of 50 faculty. And so it's like, wow, you know, and when you sit in meetings, there was like I called it an old boys club, I'll just be real honest. It was, you know, those who were senior in the department, they spoke up for a certain group and then another one for another group, and I was like, when do I get to talk? You know? And I didn't have the confidence at that time to really like stand up and say what I felt needed to be said, and it was still even hard in the smaller groups, like the math ed group. I felt, you know, sometimes defeated in what I wanted to say. I didn't feel like I was always supported. And so I actually, for me, learned to go to the research and support everything that I wanted to say from a research perspective, and then they started to respect that more. Like, okay, so she knows what she's talking about, she at least knows the research. And so for me, that was a really powerful way to convey my ideas. And, you know, they accepted that. And so that's something that I've used and has been powerful for me. But it wasn't something that anybody had ever said, this is what you should do.
Can I think that? Yeah, I guess for me, the thing that I wish I had known was, you have a lot more opportunities than you think you have. I think when I started working at the Butler Institute, which was when I was doing the child welfare research, I kind of thought, oh, now I'm in this track. This is what I'm doing. That's where I'm going to stay. This is where I'm going to end up. And I think that limited me a little bit because it didn't leave me open to the possibilities. Oh, there's all these other jobs in the university, and I'm in a different area than all of you. Staff is pretty different than faculty, but there's so many different opportunities as a staff member, and also once you're in the university, there's lots of opportunity for movement as a staff member. That's what I found, at least, that there's lots of people who are willing to take you under their wing and kind of show you the reins and help you along in your career. I've had lots of people who have been very helpful to me, just saying, well, if you do this degree, meet these people, just make these connections in the university. So.
Can I tack on something to this? You all brought up some really interesting points. I think the other thing that's been really challenging is this whole hierarchy that happens on an academic campus. And I'm just old enough and comfortable enough in my skin to be able to say pretty much what I need to say, and have learned that you've really got to apply tact. The ability to tell a man to go to hell and make him feel happy to be on his way. And so I have to relearn that here in this system, because there are these ways that you have to navigate communicating that just doesn't make sense to me, and then you complicate it with the margins. So I'm an African American female. I'm not quite a PhD, so I haven't quite yet reached the ivory tower, so to speak. And I'm not really faculty, but I've taught some stuff here and will be teaching here. And so there are all these different levels to kind of navigate. And so, you couple with that sexuality. I consider myself a member of the gay community, and so it's like I'm on the margins in every way you can think of. Like, how do you have conversations about this with someone who's really kind of over 16 departments and really could give a crap? Or at least that's what it feels like from a distance, because you don't know.
And just even to add to that, you'll find that there are some people where the hierarchy in the institution matters a hell of a lot, right? I mean, and that's actually incredibly challenging, and where for other people, it's more what everybody can bring, you know what I mean? And not really where they are in the kind of status rank. And so figuring that out, I think is difficult, is really difficult. So you can kind of take on different roles in different contexts.
Wonderful. Our final question for the panel is, any last words for students who are looking to go into a job related to academia? Some advice for them.
Can I start that one?
Yes.
I need to check out a little bit early because I have a 3 o'clock appointment. I would say the word has been used frequently and kind of cautioned about being used here, but if you're going to go into academia, I would say really be clear about what it is you love. Because at the end of the day, if you don't love it, it is, and to me, an enormous drain of your time and your energy to spend years in a place that you're fighting a system. You have to be passionate about it to fight the system and do some of the things that you want to do within academia, I think. So know what it is, maybe find another word to put on a letter.
Right.
But seriously follow what that is for you, because that at the end of the day will get you through and make you come in the next day.
Right. No, and it's, I mean, it's the letter thing, you know, where it's, I've always loved history. What does that mean? You know, so I guess it's kind of thinking about what is the specific of your, you know, of your passion? How can you articulate that passion really, rather than just saying you are passionate? And you know, that's a hard thing to do. I think for me, the advice is that never feel like you're done, right? And I think that's advice I give my students also, that one of the hardest things for me to do, still, you know, however long being in this career, is to let go of something, to have it published, or to let go of something to do a formal presentation, because you know that the knowledge is always going to change, right? I mean, and when you're a professor, the idea is like that you're an expert, and sure, you develop expertise, you're able to share this knowledge, but it doesn't mean the knowledge is static, right? So thinking about what you do as always a process, and learning from your students and learning from your colleagues, and you know, collaborating with people outside of your field. I mean, I think all of those things are incredible. You know, that's kind of where I've been the most enriched, because I also think being an academic or being, you know, a faculty member can be incredibly isolating, right? I mean, if you're, you know, depending on the type of work that you do, counseling, obviously, you know, you're in relationship, but there are a lot of hours spent grading and reading, and so finding ways to make connections with other people, I think is really important and really part of the learning process.
Wonderful. Well, before anyone else goes, Melody, thank you so much for joining us on the panel today. And I know to get out of here a little early.
And for those, I forgot to bring cards, so Carissa knows how to reach me, and I will bring some back either later on today or definitely tomorrow. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you so much.
Nikki, your pieces would like to answer some future advice.
I guess it's like I said before, just be flexible. I think that's I've had a little bit different path than you guys, and I don't necessarily know that I knew exactly what I wanted, and maybe I still don't. But I think that just taking the opportunities that have been presented to me have always been valuable.
I think for me, it's just like going into it knowing you're going to be a lifelong learner, and that your knowledge is always going to be growing and expanding. And if you go into a research area, a lot of times you'll find that you kind of focus in on a few areas, but you don't have to, right? Like I've spent a lot of time working in 3 major areas, and then recently I realized, well, I've actually known it for a while, that I'm a keen observer of body language, and I use it in my classroom. And I became really aware of how much I use it once I started teaching some online classes, and I couldn't rely on it. And I just felt like I didn't know what my students understood or where I needed to come in and offer further assistance. And so I recently found another area of research. I'm like, oh yeah, there's this whole embodied cognition and gesture. What is it telling you, and how are we interpreting it? And so So it's like, wow, like I never knew about this area. Now all of a sudden I'm like really excited and passionate about this new area, right? And so just like being open to hearing what other people are saying and looking into other directions to continue to keep inspired. Even when, like I might teach, I've taught a statistics class probably 30 times on this campus, or at least in my teaching career, and it's always different. I'm always looking to bring in new things, I'm always looking for new activities to make it come alive. And then I'm always like looking to my students like, well, hey, what worked, what didn't work, what would make this better? Like I never look at my students as if I'm the only one giving them information. I feel like it's definitely a two-way street where they're giving me a lot of indicators of what works and what doesn't work. And I think that has made me a more powerful teacher because I'm really aware and as present as I possibly can. I'm not gonna be sitting at the board writing a bunch of stuff. I'm in direct communication all the time. I've got them working together. And I'm just really open to what are the ways people learn best. And I try to attend to that. And so I spend a lot of time reading about that. And in that way, that's how I become this lifelong learner of, like what works, what doesn't work, let me try it and go from there. And always being open to learning from my students and colleagues. I think it's also really important to find a mentor at any level, wherever you're at. They don't have to be at the same university as you. My mentor is at UNC. Is just probably my best friend. We actually go dancing and stuff like that too, so it doesn't always have to be business. And I just, she's somebody I can look up to, and that we can also, support each other through the process. So